Kesi Augustine is an author, educator, and scholar. She was born in Syracuse, New York, and raised downstate, New York City. Casey attended Williams College, studied in its Oxford program for 1 year, and later received a PhD in English from NYU. Nowadays, when Casey isn't writing or reading, she's teaching language arts in a new virtual school initiative for special education students. Fate Takes the Train is her debut picture book with a major publisher. Casey lives in Central Florida. And in today's episode of Auto Interview, it's my utmost pleasure, joy, and excitement to have on the show today, Casey Augustine. How are you doing today, Casey? Lovely to have you on.
Thank you for having me. I'm doing fantastic. I'm so excited to be with you today.
Yeah, I'm very excited as well that we are here to sit down virtue of internet connectivity across mile and ocean. Basically, it's beautiful that we are here to talk about fate. Text the train. Thank you very much once again for joining in. So, Casey, we are going to get into the nitty-gritty of what inspired you to write Fate Takes the Train. But then, you've been a writer now for years and you've been able to publish multiple titles aside from Fate Takes the Train. Now, I wanted to ask you, what is your first creative spark as a writer? What is that thing that fuels you in to write? And why did you choose a children's genre for this particular title? Yeah, let's start from there. That would be great to hear your answer to that.
I appreciate this question so much, even though I don't have a straightforward answer to
Oh,
find my first spark. I feel it's something I was born with. Most writers are born with this pull
yeah.
to write. I was always a shy child. Well, around my friends, I was not. But generally speaking, I was a shy child. And I found that writing gave me an easy and natural way to express myself.
Mm,
And this was a talent that my parents nurtured so very much within me. I was fortunate to always have teachers who encouraged me to write as well. And my
wow.
aunt, Akua Leslie Hope, is a poet. So I grew up with a model of what writing could look like. So I feel like I was born with that first spark. And the desire to write for children specifically, it feels like something I never would have imagined myself doing. Now, I always knew I was going to write, but writing children's books felt like a challenge or invitation to try something new. It seemed as if once I tried it, it stuck with me. And so I'm continuing to work with children in particular right now, even
Wow.
though I never imagined that this is what I was going to be doing.
And also, that is such an amazing one, really. It's beautiful hearing you talk about this, hearing your take about it. This is really fun. Thank you very much for sharing. That's amazing. And I'm curious as to what led you
Thank
to
you.
choose this title, Fate Takes the Train, for this particular book. What significance of that title has to do with the story imbibed in the book? If you can run us through the making of the title name too, that would be great.
Fantastic. So, sure. To be honest with you, I can't take credit for the title. My editor at Harper helped us to refine the title. First draft had some like crazy, not crazy. It was not as like potent of a title. It was
Mm,
something like a heart for the hungry or a heart for the homeless, something. It was a
mm,
little abstract.
wow.
And she, upon reading the manuscript, was able to help me pull out the title. So the
Wow.
character's name changed over time. Once she became Faith, Faith stuck quite nicely. I felt like that was her name.
Yeah.
And it helped me to really amplify a lot of the influence of the story, which I received from reading a lot of poetry by Christian mystics in a writing workshop. It was all about connecting to your heart. And we had examples from saints and mystics who used faith as their inspiration to write. So I
Mm,
feel that bled into the text itself, along with my absolute love and joy for taking the train in New York City. It's always been something that
wow.
allowed me to feel independent and to explore my hometown. So the two of those things were wedded together. But I didn't come up with the title. That was my
Wow.
editor's wisdom about allowing it to be more child centered and action driven. I had a more poetic vibe at first.
I love the statement, child censored. That's really important because I think when you're trying to communicate to children, you have to come way much down to their level in the right choice of English because the same way somebody will write to an adult audience is different from the same way, somebody would write to a children's. And I think this is one of the reasons why I really find children's literature writers to be quite amazing because it takes a different sort of talent to be able to figure out exactly what word is perfect for children, something they will easily understand and not have to think too hard for. And that actually reminds me now, I mean, this is a bit quite outside of the interview. There's this particular video I love following on the internet. It's like a choral, people coming together to sing. And you would find that the choice of words, the song that the
Mm,
adults sing is different from the one the youth sing. And I love watching the children choir. Their words are so simple, the songs are so simple. And I'm like, oh, that's a beautiful one. So there's a difference between this great as people get
yes,
on and on. The age structure and everything. Quite amazing. Thank you for mentioning that.
yes.
Absolutely. And Mark Shinnie's
Thank you
illust
for reflecting that back. It is a very important part of the writing. Yes.
absolutely. And Mark Shinnie's illustration brings Fate's world vibrantly to life. How did you and Mokshini, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, collaborate to create that vivid sense of place and emotion on the page? That's the first part of my question. And the second one I'd love to ask is what messages like generosity, observation, or social awareness?
I heard the question was about myself and Mokshini collaborating and creating space for her vibrant perspective. And the second part is leaving space or amplifying certain messages within the text.
Yeah.
And it's another question where I cannot take any credit for what Mokshini brought to this project. When I saw her art, however, and we were brainstorming as a team at Harper about who could bring this project to life, I knew
Mm,
instantaneously. When you see her work, it just has like such a joyousness to it,
mm,
and it pulled me right in. I also knew that she had like a confidence and a technical skill with the architecture, and she loves New York. So I was like, okay, I feel
wow.
like she will bring that to life naturally. This is what she does all day, every day. And so I would be honored if she were interested in illustrating this project. And we were blessed to have her agree.
Wow.
And she and I did not communicate directly until after the
Oh,
project was done. So
wow.
this synergy that you feel there was just by virtue of her reading the text, developing her own relationship to it. And again, her expertise, her interest, her joy. Yes, it is very vibrant and also like nostalgic at the same time. There are so many interesting character studies that are happening in the illustrations that only she could have brought to the text by virtue of being a strong observer. So all credit goes to Mokshini for the beauty of the illustrations, as well as her understanding of the themes. I was able to weigh in and make some tiny tweaks, but honestly, there was
Wow.
not that much that I had to say. She just took it and ran with it.
That's an amazing one, actually. That is really an amazing one. Thank you. Thank you very much for mentioning. That is really helpful. And
Thank you.
absolutely. And Kesi, your work clearly carries a heart for community, justice, and everyday bravery, which I find to be quite impressive and quite awesome and very important as well. Now, I wanted to ask you, what themes or values do you find yourself returning to in your writing or creative life? Also, are there more stories in this space you're excited to explore, be it now or in the future?
Absolutely. I feel it's a really strong part of my life's journey to connect with community. Isolation comes so natural to me, doing things on my own, being the lone wolf. all of that comes so natural. But the most important things in my life, in particular on my writing path, have come from moments when I have connected with other people. When I have participated in collectives, for example, like the Diverse Streets Initiative, that
Wow.
allowed me to not just write, but to have a purpose for my writing, to have an
Mm,
audience for my writing. And there's so much that I had to let go of. I think a lot of fear being seen comes from thinking people are only going to see negative things in you. But
yeah.
I also learn and humbly, there's beauty within what I do, and there's a way that I can help others
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
expressing my gifts. So,
Mm,
community is probably the number one value that I hold close to me and hope to continue to explore in my writing, and beauty as well. I love the idea of having characters who see beauty, who create beauty, who are living their ordinary lives,
mm,
because right now in the world, it feels like there's no beauty or there's no community. And it's really
mm,
important for me to have a space to continue to amplify those things. The
mm.
projects I'm working on now feature young children who are artists. I think art is the number one way to create and preserve beauty in a community-based way. And I'm really looking forward to see where those projects might go.
That's an amazing one, actually. I love your take on that. That is so important and so lovely to know. Thank you for mentioning. Thank you. I know you have a copy of the book behind you, but if you have any copy close by, could you show it to the camera
I
just so we see
do.
what it looks like?
Yes. Oh, sorry. I took the cover off because I was prepared to read it. So this is the
Oh,
interior. Here's the jacket I took off. Pepe takes the train. Well, part of it, and you can see her featured here. And there's her mom.
wow.
There's the pigeon we had to add. But the back is also very interesting as
Oh,
well because it prepares you to enter a world where there are characters,
wow.
doing their own thing. There are a lot of animal characters as well. Everyone has like their unique signature. And I love that that came through because that's just life, right? Even if you're
Mm,
not the main character, you're a character. And I really much enjoy seeing the diversity of faces and expressions as
yeah.
well. So
That's
that is
a
the
good
book
one.
jacket. But the interior is also a lot of fun.
Mm,
She's here on the train, and there's
oh,
a as
wow.
that architectural eye and sense of movement.
Oh, look at
And as you were
that.
saying, it's very vibrant and bold.
Mm.
And when I share this book with people, they are like, I want to read that. And it's because of the art. The art is so fantastic.
That's really amazing. I like the city-like nature of that picture you showed us. The skyscrapers, the building, the train. It's so busy, quite
Yes,
preoccupied.
yes,
There's a lot happening in there.
yes.
That's a lot happening in there. That is so beautiful. Yeah, extremely beautiful. And look at that. Yeah, this is the one I love most. Oh, look at that. New York City in painting. New York City in painting. Quite
It's
amazing.
gorgeous. It's so fun.
I love your take on that. Very impressive. Now, I wanted to ask you, what kind of feedback have you gotten so far on the book ever since it's published? What have people been saying about it?
The book has, in the best way, my highest intentions was
Uh,
always to write a book that would inspire, and it'd be a simple message you could carry with you
mm,
to encourage you and give you the courage to share kindness in whatever way that makes sense for you.
yeah.
And I've been so blessed to hear from people who have read the book that are like, now every time I go outside, if I see an unhoused neighbor, I buy them a meal. I
Mm,
have a friend in Queens who said her young one read the book and now he makes sure, or they make sure they always have a little change in their pocket for their unhoused neighbor.
mm,
So some people are specifically taking that
that's
initiative to
so
connect
good.
with one another,
Yeah.
and offer what they can to others who may be in need. But the most fun is hearing little people's opinions about some of the other themes in the book. For
Yeah.
example, the idealistic side of me is like, yeah, the community side, and we're changing the world. But the
Mm,
kids are like, Actually, I kind of like really love peanut butter and jelly, and I want to tell you all about why. Um, I took the
Wow.
book to a local school this summer, and when we were reading it, we got into a heated debate about which combination of peanut butter and jelly is the best combination of peanut butter and jelly.
Mm.
So there's just like that love of food that we're connected
Wow.
to. Uh, some readers do find and feel the level of spirit and my spirit that I put into the book. They're really
Wow.
pulled to Isaiah in particular,
Mm.
as well as some of the symbols through the flying birds that are around. And there's
Wow.
been a lot that's been taken away from it. Some things I have not really consciously been aware of, but
Mm.
all of them have been memorable conversations, and I'm really
Wow.
thankful to have received positive feedback.
Wow. That's a good one. I think this is one of the things that makes writers to be quite motivated to do more, to write more. The positive feedback we get from readers, the amazing reviews. Oh, I love it. It's so motivating, it's so inspiring, and it's so satisfying as well. Very satisfying. Thank you for sharing. And Casey, what is it been like getting to connect directly with kids through school visits, through story times, and other events? I imagine hearing their reaction firsthand must be pretty special, so interesting and so beautiful. Have there been any fun or unexpected ways you've seen Faith Takes the Train used out in the community?
Time that I'm able to share the book, I realize as a writer, it's so important again to connect with people. There's a
Yeah,
part of writing that really is over ideas, research, right? But really, what we want is for our stories to live out in the world. And
yeah,
sometimes what we think a story needs in order to be rooted in the world is a little different than what people are hungry for.
yeah,
People want to be able to connect to a message that's easy to understand, but
absolutely.
not talking down to them, yet
Yeah,
relevant,
yeah,
yet entertaining,
yeah.
of about how important simplicity of language. And when reading with them, I have learned it's important for me to be that honest with them
Mm,
because the fluff is just not going to cut it. I think the most surprising or inspiring way I've seen has been through the generosity of the Florida children as part
wow.
of their community coffee can theater.
Mm,
So they have like a whole stage and little tools for young artists to take up.
mm,
And the book was featured as a tool to support storytelling.
mm,
And a lot of readers gravitated towards it, taking out the themes of kindness or of travel, or even just imagining the main character going on a trip to their house. And
yeah,
it felt so good to have a book that is very much about like being in your local environment, being community oriented, take a
mm,
life of its own in a community theater
yeah.
atmosphere. So that would be the most memorable way I've seen it shared so far.
That's an amazing one, actually. I love your take on that. That's so important and so beautiful that you've shared that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And Casey, you bring a rich background as both an educator and a scholar. How has that experience shaped the way you write for children? Do you find that your time in the classroom or your academic work influences the kind of story you are drawn to tell, if in any way? I'm just curious.
There's a really strong connection. I'll give the intellectual connection and then I'll give you the honest,
The classroom.
personable connection. So again, because it's always like when we do our scholarship, as a scholar, I always knew what I was going to, my topic was going to be because as a child, I was blessed with the resources and time
Mm,
and love of a learning community that allowed me to read just anything all the time, whatever I wanted,
mm,
I could
yeah,
read. And I came to understand the importance of reading and having access to materials, but also championing
Yeah.
the importance of having represented, and I was able to come to understand how many more books we really need for readers of
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of marginalized communities, underrepresented in any kind of way.
Well, yeah.
So the scholar in me wanted to increase representation and to be intentional about having a young Black girl at the forefront of a story where she's a child and she's doing something lovely just by being a child. That's the academic answer. So I always wanted to help increase representation. Um, the human answer is as an educator and being in environments with students who are not part of the general population of learners that we might typically think about, students
Yeah.
who need accommodations, students who have behavioral challenges, students who have been left behind in
Mm-hmm.
every sense of the word. That work has really asked me to be way more honest. And also, those are the students who give me more confidence. Those are the students who are telling me that I need to go harder with what I'm doing. You need to believe in your work. You need to publish your books. So it's like I have something I want to offer. But when I relate to students, what they really want is just for me to be myself and to live my life and to do the best that I can.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many different ways that my work as a scholar and an educator influences what I do.
Wow, that's an amazing one, really. I love your take on that. That is so true, so beautiful, and so awesome. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning. That's a great one, actually. And apart from Fate Takes the Train, do you have any other works that you've authored or say currently working on?
I was researching again and thinking of representation, the
Hmm.
need for more representation for African American characters, for all characters. And during that time, I interviewed a writer by the name of Zetta Elliott.
Hmm.
And Zetta Elliott publishing through the traditional means. And I had the opportunity to interview her and learn more about her craft and her expertise. And when I did that, she really inspired me to try self-publishing myself. So my
Hmm.
first two books for children, they're very me still. You can feel how activist and idealist oriented they
Wow.
are. The
Wow.
first book was titled Hope for the Honeybees, and there's a young girl character who is trying to help nurture honeybees after learning that they are in crisis as a species,
Wow.
dying very quickly and mysteriously. The second title, Whales of Wonder, is the same thing. It's a young girl who's a researcher and she wants to connect with whales and understand the challenges that face them in the ocean. So I've
Hmm.
always had this persistent interest in issue-based writing, and I
Hmm.
love to put young girls at the forefront of solving those issues. I
Hmm.
really do adore my first two books. Yet the perfectionist side of every writer. I'm like, okay, my
Yeah.
early writings, I see what I was going for and I love them. Yet I'm grateful for my evolution and
Yeah.
how much more confident I am in my self-expression that has led up to Faith Takes the Train. I feel it's a more mature effort. Not necessarily better or worse, but more mature and a very important part of my journey, as are the first two titles that I self-published. And
Oh.
what the future holds, we will see. I continue to write very actively, but there's no official manuscript that is forthcoming just yet.
That is really an interesting conversation. I love your answer to that. That is really beautiful and quite awesome. Thank you very much for sharing. And just in case we have some viewers who are currently watching this interview and would love to get a copy of Fate Texted Train, on what platform is it available on for purchase?
Yes. Faith Takes the Train, if you're interested in supporting, is available where most major books are sold:
Mm,
Amazon, bookshop.com, HarperCollins directly, as well as Barnes and Noble. If you shop at Walmart, it's in Walmart.
wow,
Um, Books a Million has it as well. So again, most major retailers have copies of Faith Takes the Train.
interesting. And I left a link in the description part of this interview where interested viewers can get a copy of Kesi Augustine's book directly on Amazon, Barnes& and Nobles, on Walmart, on all of the platforms she has mentioned,
Yeah,
and also on our website. I also left a link to Casey's social media pages for
awesome.
possible followings. So,
Amazing.
yeah, so thank you so much, Casey, for joining me today to talk about Fate Takes the Train. This was really an
Thank
amazing
you.
conversation. I love your description and the sound of the book. Thank you very much for coming on. This was so great.
I appreciate the time and care you put into this interview.
Yeah, it's my pleasure as well.